Aloha, folks, and welcome back to Degree Free, where we teach you how to get the work you want. I'm your host, Ryan Mariyama, and today our guest is Cameron Sorsby, the CEO of Praxis. I am super excited for this interview. We have been trying to make this happen for months, and if you are listening to this podcast and you like what Degree Free is doing, you're definitely going to like what Praxis is doing. Definitely have a look. Discover praxis.com. Before we get into today's episode, if you guys want to get more Degree Free, if you guys want to know different Degree Free jobs, different Degree Free companies that are hiring Degree Free people, tips and tricks to further your career, go to degreefree.co/newsletter to get our weekly newsletter. It goes out every week and it has actionable tips to help you get the work that you want. And without any further ado, enjoy this week's episode. Aloha, everybody, and welcome back to the Degree Free podcast. I am super excited to have the CEO of Praxis here, Cameron Sorsby. We've been trying to make this happen for months, and I am super excited to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, it's great. Great to be here, Ryan. Been looking forward to this and excited we finally nailed down a time and everything.
Yeah, definitely. And when we first connected, it was before I even thought about having guests, really. And I wanted to make sure that I had a few guests underneath my belt before we had this interview. So you're not my first, so I'm a little bit more warmed up here.
There you go.
The first place that I wanted to start with, Cameron, is if you could just explain a little bit about what you folks do at Praxis.
Sure. So Praxis, it's essentially a college alternative for ambitious young people who, they look at college, and these are, our participants are typically the types of people that they go to college without question. They've been told their whole lives, like, you need to go to school, you need to get that degree to be successful. And, historically, they're the types of people who, kind of just treat college like a natural extension of high school where, you don't have that big decision point after high school. Like, what am I going to do? It's just like, hey, which college am I going to go to? And, what's going to be my major and everything. So at Praxis, our goal is I think and we can get into this. I think it's a certain kind of person who really succeeds in the program and gets the most out of it. But the gist is our viewpoint is you don't need more formal schooling to, launch a successful career. What you need is a combination of, some context into what, opportunities are out there in the modern day career landscape, some, general guidance and support in helping you figure out what kind of, short and long-term career paths are a good fit for you, how to build valuable skills, what are the, highest growth and most in-demand companies looking for in young talent, and how to get started. So the program itself, it's a year-long business apprenticeship program. We combine a 6-month boot camp and job placement experience with a full-time entry-level job at a growing business, typically tech startups. And we kind of focus on the non-technical side of those companies. So most of our participants are starting in sales, marketing, business operations, customer success. And the goal is not to, funnel our participants into one specific career track. It's to help them get their career started, learn through real world experience, and kind of give yourself a foundation to continue building your career off of. So we've been around since 2014. So we're coming up on our ninth year of running actual cohorts in February 2023 here. And it's been really successful so far. We started, very small. We bootstrapped the company from the beginning and have grown it to, doing consistently over 100 participants a year. And, especially with kind of what the landscape of higher education looks like these days, we're really excited about the growth opportunity of the program in front of us over the next few years here.
Awesome. Thank you. And I specifically wanted to have you on. I was super excited to have you on because I kind of wanted to talk about and dig deeper on something you said. And that was you guys specialize in the non-technical side of things, and or at least like trying to help people and teach them those skills, and then how to teach them to convince other people that they know how to do those skills and then give them jobs. And what you guys do is awesome, with combined with your boot camp with 6 months and then your actual job placement, kind of functioning as a marketplace between these two things is great. And I think you're the perfect person to ask in this position when you're talking to the employers of these people, that are looking for talent. What are some of the most in-demand skills that they're looking for?
Yeah. So at the high level, I think whether, companies say this directly or not, like they want to hire for attitude and mindset over specific hard skills. So really, like, what resonates with the companies that we work with, why they continue to come back to Praxis for, new candidates and new hires and new talent and everything, is our participants really stand out because they prove like they have that kind of combination of work ethic, good character, good personality, a willingness to learn new things, a willingness to, learn new things like independently. They're not looking to come into, a company and have their hand held for 6 to 12 months to figure things out. Like, our participants want to be, what they crave more than anything is access to opportunities to go in and learn and prove themselves. And if you give them those opportunities, more likely than not, they're going to get off to a stronger start than, non-Praxis candidates, I would say. And that's what companies really kind of, what really resonates with them is like, companies will come back and ask me like, where do you find these young people? Because like, they just come in, like, they're definitely greener in terms of experience and even in terms of like specific skills needed to do the job. But most companies have actually like that because they kind of get to, train them in their specific practices. They're kind of not bringing in like baggage from other jobs and stuff. But it really does come down to like having a positive attitude and a mindset that you can come in and like, it sounds cliche, but like be a positive contributor, like in a team environment, and, know when it's like, hey, these are things that I should be getting better at on my own. And, when are the right opportunities to like seek guidance and support from other people you work with, your supervisor and everything. So I think that's the most important thing. Like, if you have strong, mindset, strong attitude, right character, you're already like in the top 10% of young professionals. I think especially, maybe over the past like decade, it's true. Like, companies are kind of accustomed to those like, millennial stereotypes of, recent college grads coming in, just not understanding like what does it mean to create value in the workplace, and maybe coming in with a slightly, entitled mindset in different ways and stuff. And I think, the companies that work with us, it's been a refreshing experience for them to like get connected with young talent that just has like a certain eagerness. And I guess the best way I would describe it is the types of people that we accept into the program and then, connect to the companies in our network. Like, they're not just treating their job as a paycheck source. They're treating it as like, this is a learning and growth opportunity that's going to be like a launch point for my career. So like, even if you're in a job that you don't look at like starting in sales, or you don't look at like starting in a customer success position at a software company is like your dream job scenario, you still understand like, I can learn a lot from this experience. And if I do good work, going to kind of leverage it into future opportunities. So I think it starts there. And then, we can go into like, maybe some of the more specific soft skills that I think really stand out. The two biggest for me are like overall, like professional communication skills. And I think communication, it is both like a more intangible soft skill of like, how you decide to interact with your colleagues, your supervisor, the customers that you're working with. But there's also like communication as a hard skill. Like writing and verbal communication in a professional setting are huge. I was the kid, both through high school and college, and then getting my career started. Like I had no idea what I really wanted to do professionally. I didn't have like a specific career path in mind of like, oh yeah, like I want to be, a software developer, or I want to be in sales. There was never like a specific like role type that I got excited about. I was more driven by like, I want to be around interesting people. I like the idea of like working for companies that are like making an impact on the world in some kind of way. But I just knew I knew more about what I didn't want rather than what I did want, in terms of like, I wanted to avoid like the stereotypical like corporate career path where I knew I wanted to avoid getting stuck in like a dead end career where I was going to feel like miserable and not able to change my circumstances. So I was looking for opportunities to like be more like dynamic in my career, I guess, and like work with like interesting companies where I felt like I had the ability to like explore different skill and role areas over time. But because of that, like I really didn't have a good, at 22, coming out of college myself, like I couldn't list 3 specific like hard skills that I had that where I could be valuable to companies. I knew early on, like if I was going to be valuable, it was going to be because like my judgment ability, my communication ability, and just like being the young person, being the young professional who was just like consistent and reliable and like low maintenance, for a company early on until, I had more time to develop specific skills.
And that's something interesting. I was having a conversation with a product manager, I guess, on this show at Meta, and we were talking about his role, but also roles in general. And we were trying to estimate like what is the percentage of like soft skills versus hard domain specific skills. And this was just 2 dummies, or I'll call myself a dummy, kind of chopping it up back and forth. But we were just like, it seems like for most jobs, and I've held every job under the sun, soft skills come into play probably like 80% of the time. And then 20% is the domain specific skills of like, okay, you need to know how to do this, that, and the other. I wanted to kind of ask you about, the attitude and mindset that you kind of first talked about. How do you show that you have the willingness to learn to somebody? Like, how does that come? How can I convince you, the employer, that I am willing to learn and that I do have that attitude and mindset?
So this is something it's kind of like baked into our boot camp experience. Is we don't set up our boot camp curriculum just to be kind of like a series of skill modules that if you complete steps A, B, and C, then you'll be able to get a badge with this specific skill. There's certainly structure to it where it's like, if you're interested in marketing, there are certain projects and certain portions of our curriculum that you can focus on to develop marketing skills, but we're going to do it in a much more like project-based way that helps you like create and execute projects in more like scenarios where it's like, hey, if you're interested in content marketing, like here are projects you can do as if you were on the job at these kinds of companies and stuff. So going back to your question though, I think the big thing is like, I think for an individual on your own, and it's like, all right, I am pre-career. I haven't gotten my like long-term career started. And, Cameron's on this podcast telling me like one of the most valuable things that you can signal to future employers is like having a certain like mindset and attitude to bring into that company. It comes down to like side projects. Like how are you taking initiative on your own to like learn and grow in the areas that you're specifically interested in. So one of the things that we look for in our own application process is like a young person's track record of doing something that they weren't obligated to do. So essentially, like, have you gone above and beyond the call of duty outside of like a classroom environment? This usually shows up in two ways. Like, one is you can tell anecdotes about like those typically like hourly wage kinds of jobs that you have before you get like your long-term career started. Like when I meet an applicant and they were, waiting tables at a restaurant, and they're telling me stories of like, hey, like I learned like kind of some I had tricks up my sleeve of like how to build good relationships with customers because I knew that was going to give them a better experience, and I felt responsible for like their experience with my the business that I was employed by, and it also had a direct impact on like my ability to receive more tips for the night and stuff like that. That's just showing me like someone's ability to think beyond just like what is the minimum expected of me in this job, and I want to do more than that because you're probably just you're innately the kind of person who isn't going to be comfortable just doing the bare minimum no matter what environment you're in. And if I'm a hiring manager for a sales or customer success team at a software company, especially like a smaller company that's more in like a startup phase, I want people who are going to come in and improve on the processes that are already in place. And like that's a really clear indicator that someone has like the soft skills and the personal judgment to be like, okay, I'm not just repeating the same task over and over again in some of these like early job experiences I have. I'm actually like able to think outside the box, figure out, make the like connections between what is your actual job. It's not just like carrying food from the kitchen to their table. It's making sure they have a pleasant, good experience in your restaurant, and thinking outside the box of like how I can improve the way we do that and stuff. And then I would say the other category, so like that first category is just having a track record of going above and beyond the call of duty, like in your kind of like more short-term jobs that you have before you get your career started. Like, I think so many people underestimate how valuable those like early job experiences are. Like most people, like when I interview applicants and stuff, like most people, they're like, yeah, I worked at McDonald's. Yeah, I worked in fast food. And I know like I didn't gain any relevant skills from that. I'm like, you bet your ass you did. Like you gained really, like if you approached it the right way, you probably gain like really high level customer service skills. And even if your goal isn't to be in like a customer service position, you still had to like, kind of like harness your ability to like relate to people, manage relationships, de-escalate situations, problem solve on the fly when it's like, hey, we're out of, certain ingredients, so these menu items aren't available. Well, that's going to change like, how you're going to, let customers know about that. Like there's a positive way to have that interaction, and there's a negative way where it's like you can really disappoint them and stuff. So there's so much that goes into that. But anyway, that's like the first category, like above and beyond the call of duty, on the job, and those kinds of jobs. And then the second one is just like, how do you pursue like personal learning and growth on your own? So like we have applicants who maybe started like a small business online. We've had applicants that, started like a lawn mowing business in their neighborhood and, kind of took it beyond that first level of like, hey, I asked a few neighbors if I could cut their lawn and I did it a few times, but it's like, no, I turned this into like a legit summer job for myself. And now I have, 10 plus lawns that I'm responsible for. And I recruited 2 of my buddies to come work for me. Like that's a really cool story to have in your back pocket. Or even someone who's just like, I'm a more like proactive learner. I'm an intellectually curious person. Like I read, I listen to these podcasts. I can talk about them, in an interesting way. And I think all that kind of like entrepreneurial side project stuff, that's something like we all have in our control to do. And from the hiring side, like especially when I'm thinking about like my talent development strategy for like entry level positions, I want like more ambitious, hungry young people. I care way less about like what specific experience, what specific skills they have. There's like certain character traits that those kinds of things can signal and stuff. So my recommendation for people would be like, take action on your personal interests in some way. And, if maybe like there's ways where maybe that's not the most helpful information for somebody who's like on the job hunt, trying to get a job as quickly as they can right now. But as a like long-term early career strategy, I think that's the best approach to make sure like you're opening up longer term opportunities for yourself. But just like start being the kind of person who's like actually like don't worry about if you're interesting, like focus on being interested in the things around you. And that's how you're going to, one, like just show other people naturally like, hey, like if you hire me, I'm not going to be the person who just literally does the X's and O's of what I'm, told to do. I'm going to like treat things as like, hey, how can we make this part of the, process of reaching out to customers like better than it currently is? Like I have a certain level of like problem solving ability and stuff. So I think if you can take that in a way where it's like, oh, this isn't directly related to like helping me get better jobs or advancing in my career, but it's all those like underlying soft skills that really make an impact on like your long-term career advancement.
For longtime listeners, basically exactly what I love everything that you said. And one of the reasons why I was super excited to have you on is because, we've met in person. So we got to talk a couple of times actually prior to this. So I know that you and I are cut from the same cloth. Like really, we believe the same things. And that's something that we see all the time with the early jobs. What you were saying is people have that doubt of their ability, right? And they just say exactly what you said. Well, I was just a server at a restaurant. Well, I just stocked shelves at Walmart. I don't really know, what experience or what I can bring to the table. But there can be two people that have the same job, but look at it completely different. And if you're able to, the name of the game in searching for a job, this is really just in anybody's career, is bringing value to the company. And in searching for a job, that's just trying to communicate that you can bring value in some way.
There are a lot of like job hunting tactics that this applies to as well. Like when it comes to actual job hunting and like how do I signal like I have the mindset, the attitude, the characteristics that like would actually make a company excited to consider me. This is the way I think about it. And this is how we kind of run our own placement process. But the more you can personalize your like job application, your pitch to companies you want to work for, the better off you're going to be. Because 99% of candidates out there that may be competing for the job that you're going after, they're all doing the same thing of just like, I have my one-page resume, filling out job applications online, and I'm, fingers crossed, I'm waiting to hear back, and, hopefully somebody wants to talk to me. It's like, you're probably going to have to apply to like 200 plus jobs in order to just get like a handful of interviews taking that general strategy. So, definitely at Praxis, we practice and preach like a quality over quantity approach to job hunting. But why I bring that up is you can show in how you actually like pitch yourself to a job, apply to a job, that you have those kinds of characteristics that a company wants to have, like in terms of soft skills and in their new hires and stuff. So one is like, just do your homework on the company, like get to know them, what they do, what their products and services are, who their target customers are, what makes them different from, their competitors, etc. And then depending on the kind of job that you're applying to, whether it's a marketing job, a sales job, or whatever it is, like find something, like do your homework and do your research on that company, and then find a way where it applies to like, hey, this is how we could be doing like our sales outreach better. Hey, I researched like, I signed up for our emails so I could get all like the typical like email campaigns that a prospect for, customer prospect is going to get. And, here I made some tweaks and improvements to, what our email or what the email sequence is. I thought this could be an interesting way to improve the, conversion rate on the landing page, or, whatever it is. It doesn't, the important thing is like, it doesn't have to necessarily be the right answers, but what you're trying to do is signal that, I can think at a higher level than just like being told what to do, and I can try to problem solve, and I'm thinking about things the right way. We had a really, really awesome participant a few months ago, and he actually went outside of our like formal hiring network to get his job that he was placed in through the program and stuff. And it was a software startup that he was interested in working for, and he was interested in joining their sales team. And he literally like signed up for their email list as if he was a prospective customer. And he rewrote all of their like the 5 email sales sequence that he got as a prospect. And then he put it into like a Notion page, a Word doc, and broke down like why he made the changes to each email that he did. And he actually like DM'd it to the sales manager on Twitter and got a conversation going that led, to an interview and eventually led to a job and stuff. It's not a 100% guarantee that's going to work every time, but ultimately it's way less work to do that for 5 to 10 companies over a couple months versus, just throwing out application over application, hundreds of applications every week. You can make a big impact because you're one of one doing that versus one of, 500 that's applying to a job online.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's what we tell people too, is to basically do free work, right? I mean, and get noticed. And exactly what you said, the problem is probably for the better all in all, but today it's never been easier to apply to jobs. Right. It's just never been easier. I mean, we can sit here and on this conversation with you, I can be applying to jobs in the background, and doing something like that where you can stand out. I mean, as you said, it's not guaranteed. I mean, there's a good chance that maybe you quote unquote wasted your time, but you're also getting the experience at the same time, right? You're getting the experience of actually doing it. You're getting the reps of actually doing it.
The participant that I brought up as an example, like the cool thing is like, he's never been in sales. He didn't already have the knowledge of like, oh, how I can make these emails better. It was a learning opportunity just as much as it was an opportunity to like potentially get a job, because he had to do the research and like individual, like study component of like what are the best examples of sales outreach campaigns, and like how can I replicate it for this specific company and stuff. Like treating your job as a learning experience, treating the job hunt as a learning experience. And like, just again, like it kind of comes back to that, like being someone who's choosing to be naturally curious about like the world around them. Like it sounds a little fluffy to say that, but like it starts with that kind of like core characteristic, like, and that's an individual choice. Like you talk about like bringing up free work. I remember especially in the early days of Praxis, we used to create like a lot of like marketing content and like, hey, here's the value of like going out of your way to do work, for a company before you're hired to do it. Because especially as a young professional, like you don't have a proven clear track record of being valuable. So you have to do the little things that can stand out. And we would get, people from all walks of life being like, oh, it's terrible. You're telling young people, to do free work, that's exploitation, etc. And it's again, like it comes back to that individual choice. Like we have control over our choices, and you can choose to be someone who just like, feels like the world is like, just like this heavy force upon your shoulders and it's like bringing you down. Or you can choose to look at things as like, all right, my lack of, specific formal experience, my lack of formal education, it's actually an opportunity for me to stand out against like my peers, that are competing for this job. And, I'm going to go do the little things that, actually, have a positive impact rather than just doing what everybody else does.
One of the things that you were talking about earlier, you were kind of talking about the skills. And then the second one that you were talking about was like entrepreneurship and getting those reps of like starting a business like that person that did the lawn care business. One of the things that I've been thinking about, and I've been talking about this with Hannah, was that like, I used to think that entrepreneur isn't for everyone. Like entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. I used to kind of think like, well, you need workers in the world. And I've kind of been thinking that I'm reevaluating that statement, because I think maybe the view on entrepreneurship is different, because I think what you hit on is super useful for people that don't know what they want to do, or they're just starting their careers, kind of stepping out into entrepreneurship in some, low risk way. You don't have to start like a Neuralink startup or anything like that. Like you don't have to go raise a bunch of money. You can just go like wash people's cars. And that project will teach you a lot about business in general. And then from there, you can kind of see, well, I kind of really liked the sales process, or I didn't really like that. I kind of liked to figure out the strategy of how we're going to get different people for like different clients for us. And it's all of that learning and all of that, as you said, intellectual curiosity that can help build your portfolio. And so I'm not sure there's a question there, but is there something that I was really thinking about lately about like, I'm not sure if entrepreneurship is not for everybody. I don't know.
I have like two thoughts on this. One is, I think there's different ways to like actually get personal value out of like the term entrepreneurship. Like it doesn't only mean this black and white definition of like, I'm going to start my own company and be a full-time business owner, and that is what I do as a career for myself. Like you can be entrepreneurial in a lot of different ways. Like I think you can be an entrepreneurial learner by like, hey, like let's say you think you're interested in marketing, like go listen to like, the 10 like best marketing podcasts and download, like sign up, for all like the really high quality like email, like marketing email newsletters, and then like start a website and start a blog about like what you're learning from that content and stuff. And it's like you could pretty quickly, like if you wanted to, you could turn that into like a little like ebook about like marketing 101 from like a beginner's perspective. And that could just be a cool way to like actually take in that information better than you would if you're just like passively, consuming that content and stuff. That could also be a cool way to show like, hey, I don't have formal like marketing experience, but I'm interested in breaking into a marketing job. Like I'm going to, create an ebook, publish it, make it look really good, and then like, try to get 100 people to sign up for this ebook. And it's like, bam, now you've shown your ability to like market something really simple in a pretty like meta way and stuff. Like, but again, like I think that's just like a small, easy example of like, you're not going to just sign up for a marketing course, on online or out of college, and that's the only way you can learn marketing. You can take a more entrepreneurial approach. And, I think the same applies to like, side gigs and like, all right, like, hey, if I'm a teenager and I want to make enough money this summer, so I have some spending money for the next school year, like, maybe I already worked like in food and bev last summer and I want to get some kind of different experience. Like, what can I do on my own to bring in some money for myself? Like, I don't think you have to be like self-identify as like, I'm an entrepreneurial type of person to give yourself permission just to do like side projects like that and everything. Like when I was growing up, I remember thinking like, I'm definitely not an entrepreneurial type of person. Like it was really intimidating and scary to me to like be involved anywhere in the process of like starting a brand new company and business and stuff. I think partially like I was just never growing up, like my dad worked in corporate finance and like the people that I was exposed to were either like, had more like traditional like careers or, they like the teachers and like, sports coaches I was surrounded with. Like I wasn't exposed to like somebody who like ran their own business and anything. It just didn't seem accessible. It didn't seem like the right fit for me. Now, like 10 years into my own career, like I've never started my own company, but when I think about my own future, like it totally seems like a possibility. I could start something from scratch. I'm not like dead set on it, but I'm no longer like intimidated by that. And it's because like I've just gained confidence through the experience of the first 10 years of my career, and I've seen what other people do, and I realize like a lot of examples of like entrepreneurship and like small business ownership and everything, it's way more accessible than like the younger version of myself thought. So I think, the bigger point I would bring up is people tend to put themselves in boxes very early on that, kind of limit themselves to like what opportunities they think could be a good fit for them. You also, like, if you would have asked me when I was 18 or 20, like, hey, like, do you think you could see yourself doing sales? I'd be like, heck no. Like, that sounds scary too. Like, I don't want to be like the cheesy, like salesperson, like, used car salesman. And, I don't have a like natural, like super extroverted personality. And like, I'm usually not the kind of person who's like controlling like the crowd in the room and like always like craving attention and just like naturally charismatic and stuff. But like through different, experiences early on in my career, I was just kind of put in situations where I had to like be in a sales position, and I just kind of like learned how to do it on the fly. It was usually super uncomfortable. And now it's something I usually really enjoy. And it's something, even like, I wouldn't be interested in being in like a full-time sales position necessarily, but I've definitely appreciated the experience I gained. And it's made me realize like, hey, like worst case scenario, like if I'm in a position where it's like, I have to go earn money and I'm desperate for a job, like sales is something that I can go do if needed. And then on a more positive note, like it's really fun and interesting to go get experience in an area and then realize like how there's like a bunch of different dots it connects to. So like, sales is like the stereotype of like, no matter what you do, you're in sales because you're, building, relationships with people, you're selling ideas or whatever it is. But it's true. And just like gaining that kind of experience, it makes you appreciate it. But I think that also kind of comes back to like approaching your career in a more entrepreneurial way versus like compare a more entrepreneurial approach to your career and a more like school approach of your career. The school approach is you have to identify like what is the one thing that you should do for like your entire career. Just like, what's the one major that you should get your formal degree in? I think that's a school approach. Whereas like the more entrepreneurial approach is like, be in more of like an experimental mode, like try out sales for 12 months and see how you like it. Even if you figure out like you don't want to be in sales for the next 5 to 10 years, you probably learned a lot of valuable skills and you gain the self-knowledge of like, this is what I want to avoid going forward. And, here are bits and pieces that I actually enjoyed. Maybe like marketing or product management is something like that might be a better fit for me because I learned from that experience, and just experiment and have fun with it.
One of the things you were talking about was just sales, and, definitely like, and this is something that I tell everybody is like, for me, learning sales changed my life. Right? Like it completely changed my life because it pretty much exactly what you said. I realized that if things ever headed south, and honestly, things have headed south multiple times in my career where I had to fall back on my skill to sell. And I had to go be a salesman for a company. But I knew as soon as I learned it that I would never go hungry. Like I was like, okay, this is the skill that I need to know. And I'm just like you, like I actually really don't like sales. Like, am I okay at it? Maybe, depending on what I'm selling, okay, maybe, but I really don't like it. But I think it's important for everybody to know sales. And it's exactly what you said. It's the selling of ideas and the selling of concepts. And I think that is the soft skill that everybody should learn, because that's when we're talking about the job search process, that's exactly what we're doing, right? We're trying to sell our skills to companies, and selling, whatever widgets or whatever and selling my skills to a company, it's all the same as long as you are able to dig, exactly what you said is just dig layers deeper on and think on these subjects. Okay, like what are they really after? And that's where doing all of these projects can really come in handy in people's careers, because then they can be privy and understand, like, okay, well, marketing, I'm not going to talk to them about maybe customer service and those metrics. I'm going to talk to them about marketing metrics, and I'm going to talk to them about what they care about. And so, yeah, I totally agree with you. I kind of wanted to switch gears and talk about a lot of people that listen to this podcast. They kind of don't know what they want to do. And from our conversations before, I know that you were like this, and I was definitely like this. And I was wondering two things. One, how do you figure out what you want to do? Like, what do you tell people? And then I guess, like, how does Praxis handle it would be the follow-up to that.
My biggest thing, especially when talking to people very early on in their career, is I tell them first and foremost, like, take the pressure off of yourself that you feel like you need to figure out what you want to do long term, like right away. I think the best careers, they evolve and develop over time, whereas like 10 years in, you're like, I could have never predicted I'm doing what I'm doing now. But if I look back at like my career timeline, like I can see like how that opportunity led to that opportunity, and like, this, combination of experiences I've had has resulted in me now doing the thing that I really want to be doing and stuff. So what we talk a lot about at Praxis is like your career is a long-term discovery process. And what my personal view is like, I'm fully prepared for there to be different points in my career where I, like, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, I once again feel like I don't know what I want to do, But I think in general, like at the beginning of your career, you shouldn't be focused on like, I think this is one specific thing I know I really want to do, and now my goal is to go do that, forever. Or I want to go do marketing, and I'm not open to do anything else but marketing because I think that's the thing that I want to do right now. Whereas like I would make my goal if I was starting my career is I would take a step back, look at it from a more long-term perspective. And my primary goal would be at, 5 to 10 years into my career, I want to be doing what I want to be doing. And then be very open-minded about what that could end up being. And then being very open-minded about what are the different kinds of opportunities that I could take on now that would help me make just a little bit of progress at a time to ultimately get to be, 5 years into my career, 10 years into my career. And I can definitively say like, I'm doing something I really enjoy and that I feel like I'm meant to be doing. So I think that's a very different approach from, again, like it's the school approach of like, when you're 18, you step onto campus and like the first thing that everybody's worried about is like picking my major, because that is going to, determine what jobs I can get out of college. And then that determines what I do for the next 30 years of my career. The world, I think the most interesting careers and in general, like the world does not demand that we kind of approach our careers that way. So first and foremost, like take pressure off of yourself. That is not an answer. That's not a question that you have to answer today. It's a question that I think is best answered on a much longer timeline. That's the biggest thing. And I think just that mindset shift it kind of allows everything else to fall into place. It allows you to not feel as much pressure to be like, I have to get like what I consider my dream job right away. It puts you in the mindset of like, hey, what are the range of opportunities that I could go land that help me, be in a better position than I am right now, 6 months from now, a year from now. And then, after that, 6-month period, like, let's say like, all right, like Ryan and Cameron are talking about sales, how valuable it is. I think I'm similar to them. Like, I don't see myself as like a natural salesperson, but they've convinced me enough that it's something, it's valuable experience to get. I'm going to go try to get a sales job and then, try it out for 6 to 12 months. And, I know a lot of people who didn't think they would like sales and end up loving sales. And I've also known a lot of successful people who tried sales, knew they wanted to pivot from it, but it helped them, it was a stepping stone to, what they really wanted to do.
I think that is really wise. First of all, I mean, I look at my own career, is what we'll call it. And yeah, I think that's exactly right. If I had all the pressure of, and which I did when I was 18, little about me, like when I was 18, I went to college just like everybody else. And, I was on a very specific track due to my family pressure. I'm Japanese and they're very much on go to school, get a job, and that's the way that it is. And particularly the job would be a white collar job. And that's just the way that it is. As soon as I was able to break from that mindset of exactly what you've been talking about this whole time, which is, picking my career and then not knowing anything about that career and then trying to make myself fit it. Like as soon as I got out of that and I kind of just, I wouldn't say like, let my career go like where the wind blew. But if you look at my resume, that's kind of what I did, yeah. And I kind of just took different opportunities. I've been a professional firefighter and I've been an accountant, and I've been everything in between, handyman and everything in between. And it's landed me at this place that I never would have dreamed of before, right? If somebody said like, what are you going to do for a living? You're just going to talk into a mic and talk to interesting people all day? Like, all right. I hate talking to people. Like, I mean, not like hate it, but I think you get what I mean. Like I'm an introvert and like, and so I'd be like, no, you're crazy. You're crazy. But here I am doing it. And I think for people to take that pressure off of themselves, to take that chip off their shoulder is huge and extremely wise.
When it comes to our careers, like the less experience we have, the more we're in the position of just like, we just don't know what we don't know. Like, especially for most of us who kind of grew up and like going to school, your life is in a more like academic classroom environment where you're just kind of sheltered from the real world, especially in terms of like your career, because we're not, in the professional environment when we're growing up and stuff. So you have to give yourself time to like get a variety of experiences and, learn different insights and lessons and learn gain self-awareness and knowledge of like, who am I? Like, what do I actually enjoy? What am I good at? Like, what kind of people do I enjoy like surrounding myself with? And you just need more time to kind of figure things out. So I think it's a short-sighted strategy to be like, okay, I'm 18 or I'm 22 and I have to determine how I'm going to spend the next 20, 30 years of my life. Whereas even if you just take like 3 to 5 years and maybe you're the less patient type and you're like, all right, like I really want to figure out what I want to do. But I'm going to give myself at least a few years to, try to answer that question. Like you're going to be in a much better position than trying to answer that question blindly, before you've gained any experience and stuff. So yeah. And again, like I think that's a really most valuable aspects of what we're doing at Praxis is beyond what you actually learn in the program and beyond like the actual job opportunities you get in the program. We're helping like these young people that are, doing the program, especially our younger participants that are, 17 to 21. And they like are recent high school grads that are doing Praxis instead of college. If you're comparing them to their peers that are, go to college for 4 to 5 years before they, start getting like real world experience, like they have a 4 to 5 year head start of not just like professional experience, but life experience. And there's so much like, if you're 19 and you've gotten to the point where it's like, okay, I can hold a career oriented job. And like maybe it's like, hey, I've learned I can do sales. And like you said, like I know I'll never go hungry because I have at least enough professional skills where I'm hireable and I can go work for a living and afford to provide for myself. Just answering that question, like that was the most stressful like question for me from like 16 to 22 of just like it's hard for me to like really vision what I'm doing with my life, and it's even hard for me to like envision myself like living on my own, paying rent, like getting married at some point. Like it just those things just seemed really far away when I was 16 and didn't have that experience. But it like the earlier you get to that point where it's like, all right, I have some like financial independence, I have some basic professional skills. You probably don't realize what like your dream career is yet, but you have some like really fundamental, you've checked some fundamental boxes that most of your peers that are taking the college path, even though they probably have a like false sense of security and confidence, like, oh, I'm going to college, I'm going to get my degree, that's going to set me up for life. Most people, unfortunately, like are in for a rude awakening when they graduate, and it's like they're starting that same process of like, how do I get my first job? How do I figure out what I want to do? And, our participants, at 17, 18, 19, they've started checking those fundamental boxes right away. So what they're doing long term, like 5 years out of the program, it's amazing to see because we have people that are, went through Praxis at 18, you don't even have to be like the top 10% of performers. Like you got good work experience, you're doing well, you're living on your own, you probably moved to a new city, you've developed friendships, in the real world and through the program and stuff. And at 22, 23, you are now 5 years ahead of, the people that you graduated college with or graduated high school with.
Yeah. And it's something that I've thought about a lot, right? I mean, I run a podcast called Degree Free. So, I mean, like, I think about this all the time. And I always used to say, or we still say, that not going to college is harder because you have to trailblaze and you have to make your own path, right? You have to like make it your own way in the world. You don't have somebody telling you, okay, you have to fill 120 credit hours and then, do this class and whatever. But I've been thinking about it recently too. This is something else that I'm kind of maybe changing my mind on. And I'm starting to think that going to college is harder. And because of exactly what you said, because if these young people, 17, 18 years old, they get their minds around what we talk about here, and then they go and attend Praxis, and they go and do your program. Like you said, they have all of this work experience. It takes the average college student 5.5 years to graduate, even though they advertise 4. It takes 5.5 years. And exactly what you said, if they're in your program or if they're just doing projects on the side and, getting jobs and just doing work, they have 5.5 years of experience. And now that person, the other person is 23 and they're just entering the workforce, and now they have to do all the same things that you did for 5 years. Yeah. And so it's something that I've been thinking about. I think it's might be harder to go to college.
Once you get over that initial hump of like, hey, I am courageous enough, I am brave enough to like bet on myself and I'm going to like get my life started without college. Once you get it, that's the part that's really hard because all of society is telling you like, go to school. And like, it's really hard to be the young person who like, when you're around family and family friends, like, after high school, everyone's like, ask, where are you going to go to college? What's your major? It sucks to be the person who doesn't have the easy answer to those questions. But I'm telling you, like, it's actually this, especially like, I feel like we're in this window where we're in this like period of time where it's safe enough to not go to college, where more and more people can do it and be really successful. but it's still early enough where it's like seen as like, oh wow, like if you frame the story the right way, it's really impressive. Like, oh, you're not just like another 18-year-old who's, deciding to take a 4 to 5 year vacation in college. Like you're working for a legit company. Like we have like 19-year-olds who have, bought houses and stuff. It's really cool, like there's a lot you can accomplish. And like what's really cool to see is like the variety of life experiences that our participants and alumni like choose to have. Like we have some people who, were like just personally kind of like more conservative in what they wanted out of life. Like they're 19, 20 and it's like they're engaged now and like they're gonna get married and like they bought a house and like they're set up like they're living as if they're 30 years old. And like it's still kind of crazy for me to see that happening, at that age and everything. And then we have other people that like they went through the program, got an awesome job, learned skills that allowed them to like go like work for themselves or freelance, and now like they're traveling around the world and like hanging out with their friends, and like they probably won't like grow up in the traditional sense of like, settling down and getting married and stuff for, quite some time. But like the important thing is like they get to choose what they do with their life. Whereas like your average college graduate, like you're stuck with 20 years of student debt. You have these, bronze handcuffs that college has shackled you with. And like you have to go take certain jobs because like you have to be making a certain amount of money. Your entire like personal spending budget is totally changed because of your student loan payments and everything. I think it's a really, again, like once you get over that initial hump of like, okay, I'm going to be the person who like opts out of the, college conveyor belt and go figure things out on my own. Like it's really exciting what you can build for yourself. And I think that's the cool thing about Praxis is like, just because you're choosing not to go to college, it doesn't mean you have to do everything on your own. I think what we do, what's really valuable about the program is like at 18, like I wouldn't know how to get my like real career started. I would just know how to like go get a job where I could make some money and then hopefully start saving enough where I could move out of my parents' house. But I think there's so much like context and guidance and support. Like here, I'll say this another way. Like how I look at Praxis is we are the ideal bridge from late adolescence to early adulthood. And just by saying like, hey, like college probably isn't the most valuable way to get your career started, that doesn't mean nothing should exist in that gap in replace of it. And I think what we do really well is like help you take care of the basics so you get to the point where you can look back at the end of the program and be like, hell yes, like I have started my career and I have started my adult life. I still have a lot to figure out as I go along, but I have at least just enough confidence that I can continue to do this. And I still have this like network and community to continue to tap into. Like what young people want is like context into like what opportunities are out there, how to build valuable skills, how to access those first job opportunities, and then ideally like a community of support of other people that are doing, taking this route and other people to learn from that are 3 to 5 years ahead of you, 10 to 15 years ahead of you.
Yep. And that's awesome. And you guys do a fantastic job of that. Really. It's funny. Tell a quick story. What you were saying about we're in this weird spot where kind of summarizing what you said, to not go to college is just going against the grain enough to make you unique, but it's really not that detrimental to your career. When I was graduating high school, I went to a small private all boys school, and there was like 115 people in the class and only 2 guys didn't go to college, right? And that was a big marketing thing for the private school to say like 98% or whatever, 99% placement into college. They use that for their marketing. And I look back now and I laughed at one of the guys that wasn't going to go to college. And I literally laughed at him. I was like, what are you going to do? Like, he's like, oh, I'm gonna go fix large appliances, and large appliances being like refrigerators, your washing machine, stuff like that. And I was like, all right, man, whatever. Yeah. And this guy is absolutely killing it. Like, fast forward to the future. This guy is 98% of our class went to college, and he's doing better than like 98% of our entire class. Yeah. And, and that's exactly what he did, right? That's exactly what he did. He went and he fixed large appliances, and he has his own shop, and he built it up to a really successful business. Yep. And while I was dicking around in college for 4 years and, learning economics, which I haven't put into use since, here he is building a successful business, And so anyway, it's just interesting.
My graduating class, 99% of, us went to college and everything. And I just remember the stigma around the kids who were choosing to go to the local community college right out of high school instead of, what 4-year, university did you get into? And I just remember being like, just felt like embarrassment and shame for them of like, oh yeah, they couldn't even get into like a good college and stuff. And one, like I went to my first college for not even a full year before I transferred, back to the local community college. And I realized like that helped me in so many ways. But two, like a lot of our best participants, went to community college for a year or two instead of going to the 4-year degree because they were smart enough to just, hey, like if they're going to go to college, I'm going to do it in the most practical way. And you're not losing anything from that experience and everything. But yeah, it's also really cool because, I'm 30, about to be 32. So, I was I was graduating high school over 10 years ago. And it's so clear, like, society is changing very quickly. Like the people that apply to the program today, like, in the early days of Praxis, it was like you had to be pretty radical to like want to do Praxis, and you're going to opt out of college and everything. And, now it's just like we have really like high quality, like really smart, impressive young people applying to the program. And it's just like very nonchalantly like, yeah, college just doesn't really make sense. Like I want to get my life started. I have no interest in, going into all this debt. I have, beyond just like the financial cost of college, they just don't have confidence like college is going to help them figure out what they want to do and how to go do it.
Yeah, we see the same thing. This younger generation, good for them. I mean, they have that same like my generation, or our generation, we're the same age. That wasn't a thing, right? I mean, it was like go to college. But these young people, as you're saying, good for them for right off the bat realizing, okay, maybe it's not going to serve me, and really thinking critically about the decision, which I should have done, right? I mean, I should have done that.
Yeah,
but I did want to.
It was definitely not a decision. It wasn't. Are you going to college? It's what college are you going to?
Exactly, and it wasn't like nobody asked me like, how are you going to pay for it? It was just like I don't know, student loans. I don't know. I'm just going to work full time. Like I'll figure it out. Yeah. But you were talking about applying to Praxis, and I did want to be respectful of your time. So just a couple more questions. What is the process for people that are interested in Praxis? What is the application process like?
Yeah, so I mean, you get started at discoverpraxis.com. You can start your application right away on the website. There's a lot of information about how the program works and like alumni stories on the website too. Just like, if you're interested at all, just go to the website and start, taking in as much information as you can and start to figure out like, hey, do I think this could be a good fit for me or not? The application process, it's really fun actually. Like initial application online, we ask you a handful of questions like, why do you want to apply to Praxis in the first place? Like we just want to get a better feel for like what you're looking to get out of the program. Have you done your homework on the program and stuff? Ask you a bit about like, hey, what have been some of the most like valuable professional experiences you've had, etc. And then from there, like you have a like half interview, half admissions call. for the first interview, where you get to talk to somebody on our team, learn more about how the program works. They're gonna, they want to get to know you, your background, your interests. Our goal there is just to make sure, like, one, like, we're both getting to know each other better. And the primary goal is, like, make sure there's clear alignment between, like, what you're looking for and, like, what the natural focus of the program is. And then after that, you have a second team member interview where they're going to dig more into, like, your work experience, other, projects that you've worked on, what kinds of, career interests you have right now. Like, are you the kind of person who doesn't really have an idea of what they want to do at all? Or, do you feel like you have pretty strong ideas of what you want to do? And, both can work in the program. I would say the vast majority of our participants, they really don't know what they want to do. The boot camp kind of helps them, like, start to gain clarity on, like, hey, are you a better fit to start at a smaller company and a customer facing role like sales or customer success? Or are you more of, like, a analytical problem solver? Like, here are, different roles in marketing and operations that could be a good fit for that, etc. But yeah, that second interview, making more of a determination, like, hey, do you kind of fit the criteria that we're looking for? And then, basic reference check. And then, from start to finish, you'll have a final decision on, if you're accepted in the program within, like, 2 to 3 weeks.
Awesome. So from that, just to clarify, from initial application to acceptance into the program, 2 to 3 weeks, is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
So you apply, you'll get invited to the first interview within a day or two, and then usually, like, another week or two in between, and then you'll have a final decision within, like, a week after that.
And how often are you guys running cohorts?
So pretty much every month of the year. We this year we're doing 10 cohorts. We start them on a monthly schedule. Cohorts are, 15 to 20 participants each. So you have a nice size, and each month of the boot camp, you're working with, like, 1 to 2 different, like, dedicated boot camp advisors and everything. So we really focus on, like, you have, like, hands-on support. You're not just, like, going through an online course that we have in our, portal, and, like, it's, up to you what you do with it. You get a lot of, personalized feedback, and you have different group workshops that you attend and everything. So yeah, 10 roughly almost every month of the year, we're starting a new cohort.
Perfect. And Cameron, last question. Where do I send people to learn more about you? Discoverpraxis.com, definitely for those that want to learn more about Praxis. But if they want to follow you and your career, where can I send them?
Yeah, probably Twitter is the best. So just at Cameron Sorsby, sharing a lot of Praxis content on there and mixing it up a little bit. But yeah, Twitter's the best place to follow me there. And then we actually have a exclusive offer for the degree-free audience today. So you can go to discoverpraxis.com/degree-free. And you can sign up for, like, your email, and you'll receive more information. You can schedule a call with somebody from the actual team to talk to. We're offering a $1,000 scholarship for the program for anyone that's coming from the Degree Free Network.
Awesome. That's awesome. And for everybody, I will put the link in the show notes, degreefree.co/podcast, and you can get everything there. And Cameron, thank you so much for your time. I have 2 more pages of questions, but we were run out of time. So hopefully soon we could do a round 2.
Yeah, man. Always up to do a part 2 anytime. I really enjoyed it, Ryan. Always love talking to you.
Awesome. Thanks again, Cameron. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. If you guys want to get links to everything that we talked about, they'll be at our show notes, degreefree.co/podcast. Definitely say hi to Cameron on Twitter at Cameron Sorsby, and check out Praxis, discoverpraxis.com/degree-free, and that'll give you a $1,000 scholarship towards your tuition if you want to sign up. Last, if you guys like this episode and you guys want to support, the best way that you could do that is by leaving us a review anywhere that you get your podcast. That really, really helps. Also, if you know somebody that this episode could help, definitely share it with them. Sharing it is one of the best ways to get what we do out there to more people, and it's super helpful. And last, if you guys want more degree free and you guys want to know about different degree free jobs, different companies that are hiring degree free people, and different tips and tricks to get you further along in your career, then go to degreefree.co/newsletter to sign up. And that's pretty much it. Until next time, guys. Aloha.